Stop. Don't just listen to this video. Do something right now. Stand up, take a deep breath, and notice how your body feels. That heaviness in your chest, the slight dizziness, the cold hands, those are not just aging. In my 27 years as a physician, I've heard that sentence too many times, and I used to believe it myself. Until one morning, not long ago, I felt it in my own body. I stood up from my desk, and everything felt slow. My energy was off, my focus was dull, and for a moment I realized this is what my patients have been trying to describe. At first, I did what most doctors do. I looked at the usual answers: more exercise, supplements, even medications. Some helped a little, most didn't last. And what surprised me was this: we've been focusing on the wrong target. It's not just about your heart, it's about how your blood vessels respond. Most people think blood flow is just about pressure, but there's a hidden mechanism, something inside your vessels that controls whether they open or tighten. When I finally understood that shift, everything changed. And what I discovered next, honestly, I didn't expect. It wasn't a drug, it wasn't expensive, it was something simple, something most men your age already have in their kitchen. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a few specific seeds. Yes, seeds that work in different ways to help your blood vessels open, relax, and restore that steady, natural flow your body depends on. And number 3 is the exact seed I mentioned right in the title of this video. If you're curious where this comes from, I've shared more details down in the description below. But before we go deeper, let me ask you something simple. How old are you? I read every comment, and I genuinely want to know where you're watching from in your life right now. All right, let's get into what's really happening inside your body and why your blood flow may not be working the way it used to. 1. The root cause. Most men over 60 miss. Start with something simple. Tomorrow morning, before coffee, take 1 tablespoon of freshly ground flaxseed, mix it into a glass of water or yogurt, and take it slowly. It sounds almost too easy, I know, and that's exactly why most men ignore it. But here's the truth I've seen again and again in my practice. The smallest habits done consistently often create the biggest shifts inside the body, and flaxseed is one of those quiet tools that works beneath the surface. As men pass 60, the real issue is not just aging, it's that your blood vessels begin to lose their ability to relax. Think of them like flexible tubes that slowly become stiff and narrow over time, and the key molecule that controls this flexibility is nitric oxide. When nitric oxide levels drop, your vessels tighten, blood flow slows down, and everything from your brain to your energy levels starts to decline. What's fascinating is that flaxseed supports this system in 2 ways. It helps your body produce more nitric oxide, and at the same time, it protects it from being broken down. There was a clinical trial where men who consumed ground flaxseed daily saw a significant drop in systolic blood pressure. Some reductions were among the highest recorded for a dietary change, and other long-term data has linked higher lignin levels, the compounds found in flaxseed, to a noticeably lower risk of cardiovascular issues. But what matters more than the numbers is what you feel. Better circulation and more stable energy, not just in the heart, but throughout the entire body. That's the dual benefit most people overlook. It's not just about blood flow, it's about how your whole system wakes up again. Now here's where most people get it wrong. They eat the seeds whole and almost nothing gets absorbed. You need to grind them, use about 1 to 2 tablespoons per day, store them in the fridge, and stay consistent for at least a few weeks to notice the difference building. This is not instant, it's cumulative, and that's what makes it powerful. But flaxseed is only the beginning because there's another seed that works through a completely different pathway. And when you combine them, the effect becomes something most men never expect. 2. Why most popular methods fail. Here's something I want you to try for just a moment. Think about what you've been told to do for your heart and circulation. Maybe more walking, maybe a cup of coffee for energy, maybe even a supplement from the pharmacy. None of those are wrong, but they miss something deeper. In both traditional medicine and modern cardiology, we've always known circulation depends on flow and warmth, but what often gets overlooked is the signal that tells your blood vessels when to open. And that signal is not controlled by effort. It's controlled by chemistry. The central mechanism here is nitric oxide signaling inside the endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels, and as you age, that signaling becomes weaker and less responsive. Studies have shown that after the age of 60, nitric oxide production can decline by up to 40%, while oxidative stress, the process that destroys it, increases significantly. Another clinical observation found that even when older adults increased physical activity, endothelial function improved by only about 10 to 15% unless nutritional support was added, which tells us something important. Movement alone is not enough if the biochemical environment is not supported. This is where combining two simple elements creates a different outcome, something both Eastern herbal traditions and modern research quietly agree on. When you pair flaxseed, which supports nitric oxide production, with pumpkin seeds, which provide magnesium and zinc, you begin to see a synergy. Magnesium helps relax the smooth muscle in your blood vessels by regulating calcium flow, while zinc protects nitric oxide from being broken down too quickly. So instead of a short burst of effect, you get a more stable, sustained dilation. Now, if you're just starting, don't jump in all at once. Begin with 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed in the morning and add a small handful, about a quarter cup, of raw pumpkin seeds in the afternoon, ideally with a meal. After about a week, your body adjusts and you can move to the full daily rhythm without discomfort. This gradual onboarding matters, especially if your digestion has slowed over the years and it allows your system to adapt without stress. But even this combination is only addressing part of the picture because there is another hidden factor that can override everything we've talked about so far. And most men have no idea it's happening inside their body every single day. 3. The main solution revealed. Now let me show you the one seed that tends to surprise people the most, because unlike the others, this one can work fast. You can actually feel a difference within hours if your body responds well. I'm talking about watermelon seeds, and the key compound here is citrulline. It may sound technical, but stay with me because this is where things start to click. Citrulline is converted in your kidneys into arginine, and arginine is then used to produce nitric oxide, the exact signal your blood vessels need to open. What makes this powerful is the process itself, because when you take arginine directly, a large portion is broken down before it even reaches your bloodstream. But citrulline bypasses that early breakdown and leads to a more sustained increase. In controlled trials, citrulline supplementation has been shown to increase blood flow and improve vascular dilation within 1 to 2 hours, and some studies have reported up to a 30% improvement in blood vessel function over a few weeks of consistent use. Another performance-focused study observed improved endurance and reduced fatigue during physical activity, which tells us this isn't just about circulation, it's about how your entire body performs. Now, some men tell me, "Doctor, I've tried seeds before, they're hard to eat, or they upset my stomach." That's a fair concern, especially if your digestion has slowed with age. But here's how to make this simple. Use roasted watermelon seeds, about 1 to 2 tablespoons, ideally in the morning or about 30 to 60 minutes before light activity like walking. If you notice a slight warmth or even a mild flushing sensation, don't panic. That's often a sign your blood vessels are responding and opening, not a problem to fear. What I like about this approach is that it gives you both an immediate effect and a long-term benefit, because while you may feel a short-term boost in circulation, over time you're also supporting the entire nitric oxide pathway more efficiently. But even nitric oxide is not the full story, because there is another layer, something that protects your blood vessels from damage in the first place, and that's where the next seed becomes even more interesting. 4. The biological mechanism. This might sound a little unusual at first, but try this. Lightly toast sesame seeds, then mix them into a warm meal so the oils are released and absorb more effectively. It's a small step, but it changes how your body uses what's inside the seed. The key compound here is sesamin, and what makes it different is that it doesn't just increase blood flow, it protects the entire system that allows blood to move freely in the first place. And that's where we go deeper than just nitric oxide. Sesamin works through antioxidant pathways. activating enzymes like superoxide dismutase and catalase, which neutralize the free radicals that damage your blood vessels. When those radicals build up, they don't just reduce large blood flow. They disrupt microcirculation, the tiny vessels that feed your nerves and tissues, which is why many men over 60 start feeling numbness, cold hands, or slow healing. In clinical observations, sesame compounds have been associated with reductions in oxidative stress markers by over 30% and improvements in lipid profiles that directly affect vessel health by around 15 to 20%. Start small, about 1 teaspoon per day, then gradually increase to 1 or 2 tablespoons as your body adjusts. Ideally consume warm to enhance absorption. Just be cautious if you're on blood-thinning medication because improving circulation too quickly can amplify those effects. But here's what's fascinating. Even when you protect the vessels, there's still one final barrier that can shut everything down, and the next seed targets that mechanism more directly than anything we've discussed so far. 5. The scientific proof. This may sound a bit stronger than what you're used to, but try this. Brew a simple tea using crushed celery seeds in hot water, let it steep for about 10 to 15 minutes, and sip it slowly in the evening. It's not a common habit, but this is where we move into one of the most researched yet overlooked compounds called 3N-butylphthalate. What makes this different is that it doesn't just support nitric oxide, it directly influences how your blood vessels respond to stress signals. Here's the deeper mechanism in simple terms. Because inside your body, stress hormones like adrenaline constantly tell your blood vessels to tighten, especially as you age. This compound helps regulate calcium movement inside the smooth muscle cells of your vessels, reducing excessive contraction and allowing them to stay relaxed even under pressure. Clinical findings have shown reductions in blood pressure by up to 12 to 14% over several weeks, and improvements in overall blood flow markers by nearly 20%, affecting both major arteries and the smaller microcirculation that feeds your extremities. That's why men often notice less tingling, warmer hands and feet, and even faster recovery in tissues when this pathway is supported. Start with half a teaspoon of crushed seeds once daily, then gradually increase to 1 teaspoon as your body adapts, ideally taken warm to enhance absorption. Just be mindful. If you're already on blood pressure medication, monitor how you feel and consult your doctor because this effect can be quite noticeable. And yet, even after all of this, there is still one final piece, one approach that combines everything we've discussed into a single, more powerful system. 6. How to use it correctly. This might sound a little intense, but if you want this to actually work, you need to treat these seeds like a daily protocol, not a casual snack. Start by combining ground flaxseed, pumpkin seeds, and a small portion of watermelon seeds into one mix and take it at the same time every morning. It seems simple, but timing and consistency are what activate the deeper mechanism here because you're feeding the nitric oxide cycle continuously instead of in random bursts. The key compound to focus on is still nitric oxide, but now you're supporting it from multiple angles: production, protection, and sustained release through intermediate pathways like arginine conversion and antioxidant enzyme activation. When done correctly, this creates a layered effect inside your body where large arteries begin to relax while microcirculation improves at the same time, which is why some men notice warmer hands, less tingling in the feet, and even better tissue recovery within weeks. There is evidence showing that consistent nutritional support for nitric oxide pathways can improve vascular responsiveness by over 20%, while combined antioxidant support can reduce oxidative damage markers by nearly 30%, reinforcing both flow and protection together. That dual effect is what most people miss. It's not just more blood, it's better quality circulation reaching deeper into tissues. Start with 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed and a small handful of mixed seeds per day, then gradually increase after a week as your digestion adapts, and always take it with a meal to improve absorption, preferably warm foods rather than cold. If you feel mild bloating at first, that's often your gut adjusting to the fiber and oils, not a negative reaction. But if you have digestive conditions or are on medication, check with your doctor before increasing intake. Because even when you do all of this right, there is still one final factor, something that can either shut your blood vessels down instantly or keep them open. And that's where we go next. 7. Mistakes plus timeline results. This may sound a bit strict, but if you want real results, you have to stop jumping between methods every few days and commit to one routine for at least 2 to 4 weeks. The biggest mistake I see is inconsistency, because the key compound here, nitric oxide, doesn't just spike and stay high, it needs continuous support through its intermediates like arginine and the enzymes that protect it. When you stop and start, your body never builds that stable pathway, so blood vessels open briefly, then tighten again. What happens when you stay consistent is very different because both large blood vessels and microcirculation begin to respond over time, and that's when men start noticing real changes. In some observations, vascular function can begin improving within the first week, while more stable improvements of 20% or more in endothelial responsiveness tend to show up after several weeks of steady intake, and reductions in oxidative stress markers can approach 25 to 30% as the system stabilizes. That's when symptoms like cold hands, tingling feet, or slow healing start to shift, not overnight, but in a way that feels natural and lasting. Start slowly if needed, 1 tablespoon daily, then increase after a week, always with meals and preferably warm foods to support absorption, and pay attention to how your body responds rather than rushing the process. If you feel mild digestive changes, that's often part of the adjustment, but if you have underlying conditions or take medication, it's wise to move carefully and speak with your doctor. Because even if you avoid every mistake and follow the timeline perfectly, there is still one final mechanism, arguably the strongest of all, that can override everything we've discussed so far. If you found this helpful, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. In the upcoming videos, I'll break down simple science-backed methods, like the exact seeds and combinations we discussed, to help improve blood flow, protect your vessels, and restore steady energy after 60. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I'll see you in the next video.